Well, this is Tunnel Barn Farm. I'm on high pool, peg 22, not a noted peg, but I've got the lake to myself now. I've been coaching here. I've had 4 guys here. We've had a fantastic day. We've been catching shallow mostly on maggots, a few fish on pellets, and we've tried meat. It's been okay, but we've just got carried away catching shallow on maggots, to be honest. It's just been great fun, especially with how cold and everything has been. We've had a frost this morning. I think we've had a frost every morning for about 3 weeks now, it feels like. So the fish don't know if they're coming or going, but one thing that has been working here is meat. For whatever reason, the fish seem to have a taste for meat at the moment, and I've brought some. I've already had it cubed up today, but we've not been using it, so I thought I'd stop on after my session and have a quick go on meat and see what I can catch. Obviously it's going to be good. I'm the only one here. It's carp o'clock now. I should be catching, but I'm going to have a top kit challenge. I've just brought just over a tin of meat, and this is mostly 6mm cubes of meat. I don't know if you can see that, quite roughly cubed. I don't mind them being quite roughly cubed. In fact, I rather they're a little bit irregular, as long as you're not catapulting them. I quite like them irregular and a bit higgledy-piggledy. And but that's mostly 6mm meat with some 7mm and a few bits of offcuts and everything. My meat cutter's not brilliant, it's a bit clogged up and everything, but I quite like that because it cuts my meat quite rough. So so that's what we're going to do. Anyway, we've got a tin and a half of meat, and we've got a top kit. It's going to be a top kit challenge. I'm going to try and catch 10 fish on my top kit and then pack away and see how quickly I can catch those 10 fish. That's the plan, so let's get fishing. Right, we'll carry on rolling, I suppose. I'm not even going to break down. So the only thing on my side tray, hopefully you can see that, I've got some micras. I've got a bigger pot, I've got a medium pot on at the moment, a bit of water for washing my fingers, and a towel and my meat. So we'll have a close look at that meat again there. So you can see there's a few irregular sizes, a few 7mm cubes, but it's mostly 6mm. Use the MAP meat cutter, which is okay. It's a bit temperamental, but it's just the trick for what I want. But 6mm meat on an F1-y style venue like that's quite good for me. If I was at wide taking, I'd probably use 7mm or even 8mm. But for this sort of venue, when you're catching F1s particularly, that's what I want to do. So we'll quickly feed. I've had a quick go. I've probably had 3 or 4 fish, and I've just had a common about £3, maybe £4. Actually try to get under my pallet because I've only got the one keep net in. I don't know if you can see that, just the one keep net. So I'm normally protecting my pallet a little bit more, but anyway, I managed to get him out and I've got him in, and he's in my keep net now. So, but what I'm going to do, I've just got meat and micras. I'm just going to feed a decent amount of micras. I'll go through where I'm fishing and why in a minute. I'm just going to feed. Where are we there? And then we're going to repeat the process with a bit of meat. To be honest, I don't want to be potting too much, but just to begin with, because I've had a little bit of a break, something to eat, I'm just going to go back and just tighten everything up with a pot again, and hopefully I can just throw. But that micros is quite good. A lot of people just feed meat, but I think micros, sometimes ground bait if it was shallower water, I think that's quite good. But that's the worst thing about meat, is how crappy it is on your hands. But as long as you keep your hands dry and everything, you should be all right. And rig wise, I've got a 4x14 Malman Dusty. That's on 018 line. I've got one number 8 back shot above, 12 to 14 slick elastic. I don't know if you can see that. Quite beefy elastic for an F1 venue, but we're only fishing a top kit and they're bigger fish. I'm expecting most of my fish to be like £2 plus. So that's why we're using beefy elastic. I don't want them running all over the place. We're only catching them there, so I want to catch them there and try and play into my left. That's the plan anyway. And at the moment I've just got a bulk of number 8s and a number, it's either a number 9 or a number 10 dropper. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I've got a 4-inch hook length, but I think a 6-inch would be fine today actually, but it's just what I've got on the rig already. And that's a size 16 MXC1 hook, and that's an 012 hook length. It's just a rig I'd already got set up, so so that's what we're going to use, and a bulk and 1 dropper. It's about, this is a deep lake, let's just get that clear, because this is a deep lake. I'd like to be using short kits today, and most of the venues or most of the lakes at Tunnel Barn I'd be using a short kit, but because it's so deep on a top kit here, in fact it's deeper than that, it's probably another foot deeper than that if I go another section further. It is, I would say, what's that, 6 foot? Yeah, it's got, let's have a look, see what we are. No, sorry, 5.5 foot, shall we say. That's how deep that is. So yeah, that's how deep it is. But right, without further ado, let's get fishing. let's get fishing and less waffling and just try and catch some fish. Oh, all I've got with me is, all I've got out is a top 2 and a number 3 and a number 4 section in case I hook anything big and have to chase it out. So that's it. I've lined up with a pallet that way. I'm just fishing to my right. Sometimes I'll fish straight in front, but I do like to fish slightly to one side. That way I can hit the fish there, bring them round and net them to the left, and I'm not disturbing this area. That's the theory. So there's already an indication there. I'm fully expecting bites, an indication. I'm expecting this to be good. So, but I might have to just juggle things around a little bit. Oh, we're raining now. That was a bite. Too busy looking at the rain clouds. A big black cloud heading my way, so we'll see what we can do before the rain starts coming. Why does it always rain on me? Well, this is nice weather for ducks. Hello, Mr. Duck. Go away from my bait. Sorry, you can't see that, but there's a duck after my bait. I'm not sure when this is going to pass. I've quickly scrambled some stuff away, but we'll start from now. I've probably not fed it for 15-20 minutes. I've been doing a few bits and bobs, so we'll start afresh. I'm gonna get some micros, decent amount of micros. I'm not on the silt there, I'm up on the slope, so I'm confident that they're going to get down and they're not going to fizz up or anything like that. So I'm going to quickly kick things off, line up with a pallet over there. There we are, and I'm going to put a bit of meat in as well. Probably quite a liberal, you know, about 25 cubes of meat. They'll soon lap that up. There we are. Right, and I'm on a long kit. I'd quite like to use a short kit, especially at a venue like this, but because it's deep, it's over 7 foot down the middle on this peg, and I've just come out the deeper water by about, I don't know, 8 inches to a foot, pulling it up that slope. And I quite like to do that. The shelf on this venue is quite close in, and that's why I'm fishing slightly to the side. I missed that bite, too busy gassing. I just watched it bury, and again. Yeah, so I'm pulling it up the slope. So I'm not on a flat bottom. I'm just coming up the slope. And I quite like that because you're pulling it against the gradient. The fish don't have to tip up to feed, and it's just a nice place to catch. They don't go too scatty on a slope. And they just seem quite settled at this, especially at this time of day. There we are. So that didn't take too long, and I fed probably 15 cubes of meat. We could double throw, we could try all sorts, but we're just going to feed about 15 cubes and see if we can net this and go straight back in and get a bite over those 15 cubes. There we are. Nice big F1, couple of pound. So that's number 1. Let's see if we can get another 9 fish, whatever they might be. Might even be some big skimmers and that. We've caught a lot of skimmers coaching today, so it's been really good. Well, I say we've been fishing shallow and catching skimmers shallow as well, which has been quite common everywhere I've been going, not just here. A lot of skimmers feeding shallow at the moment. So I've gone for that's probably a 7mm cube of meat amongst my 6mm cubes. So I'm just pulling it in again. I'm not being mega accurate, mega precise. I'm probably fishing a sort of area the size of a sort of like a dinner plate area. That's the area I'm trying to keep throwing. And we're only a top kit away, so we can be nice and accurate. That might have nicked my cube of meat. We'll just quickly drop it back down and just check. Nope, it didn't, but that one did. But you will get a few sharp bites, and sometimes just a few little shuffles about will fix that. We might find the 6mm cubes are better than the 7mm. Sometimes you want to target standout bait. I've got some slightly longer cubes. I've got all sorts really to pick amongst. Sometimes the smallest cubes you can find are what you catch better on. F1s can be really, really iffy, you know. So if there's carp in the peg, I generally put a slightly bigger cube on. But with F1s, sometimes you need to go the other way and fish a smaller cube. What's going on with this weather? So I put a few micros in at the start. I don't overdo it with micros, I want them on the meat. But the micros at a venue like this, anywhere where there's F1s, micros are the ultimate attractor really. So I try and feed something closer or the exact thing I am hooking, which today is meat. And that's why meat is so good at this venue. You're feeding and fishing the same thing. Come on. But I think they're eating it pretty fast. I've already got that sort of notion. So they might want quite a bit of bait today. You know, quite heavy feeding. If this was a daytime session, you might just be throwing in 5, 6, 7, 8 cubes of meat. But this time of day, we'll be feeding a bit more. And maybe even double feeding. But I'm lifting it out and dropping it back in, so if anything is rushing in for that bait, I'm hopefully not going to foul hook it. There we are. Let's see, I didn't have a bite, refed, laid the rig in, and it's gone again. So we'll double feed this time. What's this? I've already lost count. This is fish number 2, isn't it? I think it's another F1. Feels like a good fish. But meat sorts out bigger fish. They don't always want to feed. You know, if in doubt, I always fish pellets. Yeah, nice big plodder. Just ambled around. But that's the problem with meat. It is a bit of a gamble, whereas pellets are safer. You catch everything. You catch all sorts of sizes. Whee! He's sliding backwards. A bit slippy with this wet rain and wet rain. Is there any other sort of rain? So, but yeah, a nice 2 or 3 pound F1. Just put them in nice and quietly. But I've got my keep net to my left, I'm catching them to my right, and I'm burning around. I'm going to try and catch them in this sort of area or slightly to my left. I don't want to be playing them where I've hooked them, which is why I've gone to the right a little bit. We could have done this in front. We could have done it top kitten 1, top kitten 2 in front. But because this lake in particular is so deep, it's deep enough to catch them on a top kit. There's enough depth. But I don't really want to be hooking them there and playing them there, so that's why I've just swung round. I say this rig is deeper than my short kit, so else I'd normally be doing this on a short kit, still with 12 to 14 elastic as well. It's a real sort of bagging, sort of bullying method really. You can get the fish in quicker and you're right over the fish. Oh, and it stopped. It went ding, stopped. Right, flicking a light switch there, but it's gone cold now. I'm absolutely froze. So a double throw then, so we'll see if that makes a difference or not. But what I really want is to go lay it in and it buried each time. What we can try and do is just feed around that sort of area, and we can pull our float closer into the bank if we need to, and that way we're pulling our rig closer up the slope. See, I'm too busy gassing. I should have took the rig out after throwing, because I threw and then my float shot under with a line bite. So I need to practice what I preach really. But I've thrown again. Take this hood down. Both hoods even. There we are. Right, back in business now. God, it's gone really dark now all of a sudden. But we're going to try and catch 10 fish, that's what I said. So we've got 8 more fish and then we can go. See what we can learn. We'll see what we can bag in that time. See if we can get any proper carp as well amongst these F1s. But I think these fish are hungry. They've been dying to feed these fish, but they've just been so moody at this venue, and every venue I can think of, to be honest. We had that mini heat wave for about a week, and then I can't think of a single venue that's fished well since. Not with all these frosts we're having. There we are. We're going to double feed again, and then we'll assess how big the fish is. I'm more bothered about settling the fish. Another nice F1. Whoop. That was my chance, wasn't it? There we are. What you do find, sometimes these bigger F1s, they're the ones that you can do a bigger weight with, because actually they don't pull quite so hard, they just plod around. So they're generally a bit easier to get in the 2 pounder F1s. It's the little scroty ones that seem to give you all the trouble. What I'm going to try and do now, I'm going to fish a long cube and just see. It's like a double length cube. Just see if they pick that out quicker. Some days they do. To be honest, I'd rather just fish a slightly bigger cube rather than these double cubes on an F1 venue, but some days they'll pick it out nice. But an evening like this, it's just nice to have a bit of an experiment. See, that float's sitting a little bit lower now, so that's telling me that I'm just off the bottom. So I've just pulled it in and the bristle's sitting nicely again. So you can use a bait, a heavyish bait like that double cube of meat, to let you know where your rig is on that slope as well. But if I need to settle them again, I'll just put a few more micro pellets in. Even just a dozen micros can keep them down, keep them foraging down. Sometimes topping out there, sometimes they want to come up and take all the meat on the way down. But at this range it's quite hard to catch them shallow. What I'm trying to do is keep them down if I can. Now I might have fed too much that last go, so what I'm going to do this time is just feed 5 or 6. Ooh, felt something. I don't know if it was a proper bite. I'm just going to feed, let's just throw in, once I unhook me from myself, just throw in 6 cubes, and let's put a 6mm cube on. Let's go the other way, let's just go a bit more negative. And I'm always just trying to find out, do they want a lot of bait or just a pinch of bait? And these big F1s sometimes just want a pinch of bait, to be honest. Even at this time in the evening, or in the late afternoon, they sometimes don't want loads of bait on their heads. Always on edge F1s, I always think. They quickly rush in and they're gone again. They very rarely hang around in your peg. So as long as I'm putting something in regularly, that's the main thing. It's just working out the volume really. Again, that's just pulling under a little bit, so I'm just pulling it back into the bank. Because I'm too busy gassing, I'm not really paying attention to my marker, and I was probably 4 or 5 inches further out. That's it, sitting nicely again now. But what I'll experiment with as well is going even further over depth. It's surprising how far over depth you can go with meat, especially when you're pulling it against the slope. Sometimes they want it spread out a little bit as well, especially if you're getting quite a few fish on the drop. A little lift and a wobble, but not a fast response after feeding 5 or 6 cubes, so maybe they're just eating it all and scarpering. There we are. So I'm going to feed a bit more this time, because I wanted to catch that fish quicker than what I have. Never happy. Might be a little ghost F1 this. Yeah, ghost F1. It's quite a new looking fish. You just see the ghost carp sort of pattern on his head. I don't know if you can see that. But they're lovely fish they are. They've put on some weight since they were stocked, and he's had that reasonably deep as well. Actually, he's an inch inside his mouth, so it's just worth bearing that in mind. I'm not going to make any adjustments just yet, but if I keep hooking them deep, then I'll potentially shallow up a bit. So we've already fed some bait, so I'm confident our peg's being settled. Let's get another cube, nice rough looking cube. I have washed this meat, by the way, with 6mm. 6mm can be a bit temperamental, with the slightly smaller cubes can sometimes float. So I do run it under I put it all in a colander, and then I quickly run a hot tap over it for a little bit. There we are. That's how fast I want to be catching for me to see it as a viable method. Right, see what I mean? That's a big F1 there, and he's just plodded to the top. It's the small ones that give you the trouble, although that's not to say they don't fight hard in the landing net. But yeah, he's at least 2.5 pound, that maybe 3. So what are we on? 1, 2, 3, 4. Are we on 4 or 5? I think we're on 5, but we'll call that 4. So I can catch an extra one then, can't I? So but that was good. That was as fast as I want them to be on this line. Quickly swinging it out. I'm going to try and bomb it down a bit faster now, just by dropping it down rather than laying it in a line. Just see when it's right, and there's a lot of fish in the peg, the quicker you can get that rig down the better. So I'm just lowered it straight down really. Kick it out a little bit and then straight down. And never lay it in hook bait this way out, because you're going to be the wrong side of the slope. You want to pull it up the slope. And when I do start catching on a top kit, I do like my top kit fishing. I do tend to get a bit like this, and my old friend Lee Woodhouse used to call me Tay-Pot. I'm a little Tay-Pot because I regularly fish like this with one arm on my shoulder and one arm out. But that's how I've always done. I just get on edge when I'm when I'm top kit fishing. So I'm just going to relax. I'm going to put my hand on my knee just to calm myself down and settle myself. But that was a fast bite, that last one. A little wobble. There's fish there. It's not solid, or I'm not catching mega fast, but I'm catching okay. And the fish, because they're so big, they're worth catching. You know, you don't mind taking another minute longer to hook the fish if they're all a good size, and every single one's been a proper one. And this lake is full of little stockies and roach and skimmers and all sorts of things. So so it's nice to be catching the big old fish. They're the match winners. And during the daytime, you generally catch them shallow or late on meat like this, or if it's harder, you'll have to go to the island for them. Ooh, I was too busy looking at that mummy and her ducklings. Right, go on it. Right, I'm going to lay this one in again sideways and let it fall a bit slower, let it arc in. Just bringing it slightly further up the slope this time. Sometimes laying a little bit more line on the bottom, you hook the fish a bit better, because you're giving the fish a little bit more time to take the bait before your float goes under, just by pulling it up the slope a little bit more. We're talking fractions, you know, just another inch or two closer towards me. That can make all the difference. I'm shivering now, it's cold. But I'm more bothered about trying to get the feeding right than anything. So I'm just going to feed 2 lots of 6 this time. And I don't mind if I feed a bit too much past my float, because I want the fish to come up that slope anyway and keep some of them away from my hook bait almost. It's an orangey fish. Very orange fish. Lovely. Not as big as the last one. Very golden, isn't he? Immaculate. Very, very nice fish. What's that? 5 or 6? We'll call that 5. It's probably 6. But I've already fed, so you know, this pot is pretty redundant at the moment. I'm laying it in sideways again and letting it fall. If I start getting foul lookers and everything, then I'll start bombing it down again. But I'm just maximising that fall. Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I do wash my meat when it's 6mm generally, because if you're not careful, some of it does float. And meat's changing. I've noticed what I would class as plum rose is it's almost identical looking tin, but it actually says Dane Bank or Dane Park or Dane something now, and it just looks like plum rose. I'm not convinced it's the same stuff, but it's from B&M supermarkets, and it's still the cheapest meat I can find, and I generally try and get a tray of it if I can. And I've got no problem using chopped ham and pork. I just try and avoid the really fatty, mushy meat for this sort of game anyway. I want quite a firm meat that I can hook, and that's not going to keep coming off the hook too easily. Come on then. See, not so much as a wobble now. I'm not convinced there's loads of fish coming into the peg. What we'll try doing next put in, we'll just sit on this amount that we've fed. I'm just going to pot and lower it in amongst what I've potted in. Stomach's rumbling. Definitely due some dinner. I'm not eating a lot today. No Freddo on my side tray today. Right, no bites. I'm just going to lift and just lower it down again. Meat is quite a visual bait. You know, they will come in and take it on the way down a lot more than other baits, I find. So I've got no problem laying it in several times. Nothing on that, so I'm going to throw some bait. And by washing the fat off, it does sink a bit faster. It doesn't hang so much. But if I was using 7 or 8mm cubes, generally I just leave it as it is, straight out the tin. It's only those smaller cubes that tend to get stuck in the surface film. Some days you want that. If you was catching on meat shallow, I'd want that. I'd want a few to start floating before they sink. Because I'm bottom fishing and I don't want anything coming up. There we go. So right, I'm not going to feed this time. I'm only going to feed just before going in. Another one that just came up, it came up like a bream. It's gone through his lip and it's gone into my landing net. There we go. So, threaded it back. Sometimes you get an odd one that does that. There we are. Very lightly hooked. But that wasn't going to come off. Nice looking fish again. Oh, now he's got a buckled tail. Look at that. Don't see many like that. So I've not fed after hooking that fish this time. Instead, I'm going to feed now and then lower it in with it. It might be, sometimes they're a bit clever. We're just going to hang fire, wait a couple of seconds. On a good day, they'll just rip the elastic out before it even reaches the bottom, but it's not that time of year yet. We're still in April. There we are, straight away. So that worked, didn't it? So maybe they are just eating it really, really fast. Oh, that's an angry fish. So because I'm going to be playing it for a while, I am going to feed a bit, but I'm also going to feed and go straight on it this next drop. There's an angry one. Sometimes you get an identical looking fish and some of them come in like wet sacks and other ones fight a bit. Might be a little common. Just an angry F1. But I'm trying to keep it in front and to my left if I can. Which doesn't make it easy for you to look at. There we are. Yeah, another nice fish. Looks the same as the last one, but altogether more angry. What are we on, 7 or 8? I really should have clicked these, shouldn't I? Another nice fish. Lop. So we fed a little bit whilst we was playing it. I'm just going to quickly bait up. That's how I bait up. Show a bit of hook. I don't want to bury it completely. Quickly throw some cubes in. And whilst that's going down, I'm going to dry my other hand and try and get the fat off. If you're not careful, your hands can get so slippy with meat that you end up losing grip of your top kit and things like that. And I don't want that to happen. If the water was a lot clearer, I'd probably use a much lighter float. You know, a 0.2 gram float and strung out number 10s or 11s. And you'll catch quite a lot on the drop when it's clear. But I'd probably also be fishing a little bit further out as well. So we'll feed. That's a big old waddler again. Might be a carp this. He didn't do a lot of moving when I hooked him, and it was the most subtle of bites. Yeah, so I'm struggling to steer him out of the peg. Could just be a massive F1. My biggest ever F1 from this venue was £6 something, and I actually had it out of this lake. Even though in general the F1s are on the smaller side. It's my PB tunnel barn F1 from this lake. I would say this is a carp. So we'll keep feeding a little bit and settle those fish. I'm only on an 012 bottom. We could fish 014 in hindsight, especially as it's an afternoon session. But I've tried to put everything on my side, and it's nice to see how much stick you can give fish on an 012 bottom. And generally at tunnel I like to fish 012. I don't tend to fish 014 too much unless I'm absolutely sacking. I would say this is a big carp. So we'll catch this. 2 more. I'm assuming we'll be on number 10 then. I have completely lost count. If this is an F1, it's a big one. He is not doing a lot if anything, he's still feeding. We'll feed a bit more bait. Oh yeah, definitely a carp. There's some big old carp in this lake, in all the lakes at Tunnel. People think it's an out and out F1 venue, and it's not. Definitely not. I was I third or fourth on top pool a couple of weeks back. Half my fish were carp, and one of them was probably £10. And this is a big old kipper, I think. Not even seen him yet. We might not see him. Give a stab down there. Just stopping going under my pallet. Normally I'd have a few more keep nets around me, but to protect my pallet, but I've only got the one in. Just whenever they go near your legs, I just like to dip my landing net. Seems to help persuade them. Feed a bit more bait there. Definitely not an F1. My guess is it's probably a 6 to 8 pound common carp. We might never know. Ooh. Come on, Johnny boy. Nice to at least see him before he breaks me. But these are the bonus fish that are worth getting in. It's worth 3 or 4 F1s, isn't it? There's no point rushing. Just need him to get a little gob full of air and he will not come up. Just a big long torpedo, I think. Right, now he's over there. We'll feed again. Keep that bait going in. I've only got a tin and a half of meat on my side. It's ample. Catch £50 on that, no problem. Wow, what an angry carp. Oh, he's a big mirror. Probably £8 by the looks of that. Pretty fish. These are the ones that tend to hook the island all day and then just come down a bit late. Oh yeah. Oh, look at the mouth on that. Oh, he's a shuffler. He's worth taking the time for, isn't he? Look at the size of his mouth. Oh yeah. Oh, that's at least £8. Just got a bit of meat juice in my eye. Yeah. Just splashed myself in the face. We'll have a look at him. We will have a look at him. Let's have a... Got that out my eye. Just splashed my lens. Right, where were we? That is a clonker. He's probably £10. What do you reckon? That was an angry old fish. That's got to be £10. Meat on a top kit. Tempted to end there. Put that in. That's definitely £10. No wonder he didn't want to give up. Won't come out my landing net now. Whew. Right. Absolute monster. Let's try and catch 2 more fish, and I think that's all we need, isn't it? Wow, what a beaut. Surprising what you'll catch on a top gear, and those fish don't always come down the edge. They're a bit too cute for that. I've watched some of these fish sometimes. They'll come in, waft everything from the edge, but then they'll eat the bait further down, and we are just down that shelf. Clever things. Maybe we give them too much credit, but I'm sure these fish are pretty crafty anyway when they want to be. That might have disturbed the peg a little bit because he has gone everywhere, but £10 carp on a top kit on 012 bottom isn't bad going really. No wonder he pulled a bit. It's gonna go. I've not put any more micros in. There'll be days when you have to just put a few more in just to hold the fish in the peg a little bit more. But if I can, I'll just feed meat. I know some anglers here fish hemp. They feed a lot of hemp with their meat. But personally, that's just one more thing to be cluttering up my side tray. I carry enough stuff as it is, so I try and stick to just meat and micros. If it was in shallow water down the edge, I'd consider putting a bit of ground bait in as well. Ground bait and meat can be really good, or ground bait, meat and micros all together in a little mush. No bites, so we'll just feed again. I'm just lifting the rig out of the water, kicking it out a little bit, and then I'm pulling it back in again, just to let it sort of waft back down nicely. No bites again, so it's gone a bit quiet. Let's just feed a little bit more. I'm going to kick it right out this time and just really hold it on a tight line now, so it really arcs down nice. You got to be careful doing that in case you foul up fish, but some days it's the only way they'll have it. Ooh, and it did, and I missed it. Right, I'm just going to put a 6-inch hook length on, and just to see, sometimes prefer a 6-inch for waftier baits like maggots and meat after that big carp. So we'll just see, we'll just move that bulk up a little bit. So we've got a bulk and one dropper still, 6-inch about. And just adjust that just a little bit, pull that down a little bit. There we are. So let's have a feed. Sort the hands out. Yeah, I'm just going to see if a 6-inch is better in this sort of depth of water with a wafty bait, and you get pretty positive bites on meat, so I can't really see any advantage in a 4-inch hook length on a slope. A lot of people are obsessed with 4-inch hook lengths, but I don't necessarily think you need 4-inch, especially in this depth of water when you're fishing on a slope. I'm more than happy to use 6-inch. I used a 4-inch when I got here because that was what was on the rig already, but actually I've just thought after that big carp we'll go and try a 6-inch and just see if there's any difference. Let's have a little feed of some micros just to see. I like to experiment a bit. We're going to pot in some micros and meat just in a medium toss spot. We'll hopefully try and improve that and catch the last 2 fish on a 6-inch hook length. I only use 4-inch because that's what I had on the rig, and me being a bit lazy, I've just used an old rig that I'd already got on a winder. So let's see what we can catch on this. I've actually got a float called Pablo RWC hook, and that's got a 2mm bristle, and actually I think if I came back here that's the float I'd be using, but they're in the other tray. So but this is the first rig I picked up, and it was more of a pellet rig really. So there, one more fish, maybe 2. I did say 10 fish, didn't I? But who's counting really? What should we say? 2 more fish then. 2 more fish. I'm going to pot it in nice and tight and just see what's what. Even though I can throw this range, sometimes it's nice to try potting nice and tightly and just lower it and straight in amongst that. And I'll mix up between potting in a real nice tight bullseye of bait and throwing on a top kit. Being ultra accurate with a pot can pay dividends, even if you think you're accurate by throwing. But other days they want the noise of the throwing, so you know, you've got to weigh it up. Sometimes you want it sneaked in, you just want to sneak that bait in. With a pot, throwing can send your peg a bit doolally. because they get all excited by the rattle of the bait on the surface. So it's worth mixing it up and seeing, and every day is a bit different really. I couldn't ever come here and fish one set way and know it'd be right. I'd have to work it out on the day, depending on how the fish are behaving. I've not foul hooked the fish, have I? So that's good. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. There we are. Another waddler. Where are you going? Where are you going? Might be another little ghost F1 actually. No, just a nice big one. Right then, so that is my penultimate fish. Just in the side of it, but that's okay. Decent fish. So let's bait up. This time I'm going to throw and then just go straight over it. Let's throw. Bait out that way a little bit. Pretty confident of getting a bite pretty quick. So it's been alright. It's not been absolutely frantic fishing, but they've all been quality fish. Topped off by that £10 mirror. Just waiting for the wallop now. There we are. Very fast bite that one. And whilst I'm playing this, I'm just going to dry my hands a bit as well, get the fat of that meat off my hands. This might be a carp, the way he's pulling. Maybe. No, just a very big F1. Looks about £3. Oh yeah. Oh, nearly jumped back out again. Oh, he's well over £3 that. That's a proper F1. Right in the middle of the top lip. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. There we are. So definitely don't need a 4-inch hook length. 6-inch straight out of the packet is fine if you use pre-tides. But that is a cracker. There we are. That's probably close to £4 that. Great big F1 on meat on a top kit. Lovely way to spend an hour after a coaching session. Boy. Let's have a quick look at what we've caught. I've caught, I think, 3 fish before we started filming, maybe 4. And look at that. Hopefully you can see those. Cracking fish. Great big meat fish. There's that big one. Just going. Oh, and there's 2 more still in there. Wow, there's definitely £50 of fish there. In just an hour or less fishing. Whew. All on the meat. Great stuff. Hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Just an hour, maybe less than an hour's top kit fishing with meat. Such a simple way of catching, but such a deadly way of catching great big fish. Quality F1s and nice big carp. And I'm made up with that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.